Now, of course, there's feed and grain and hay here.
Fallon Taylor,
little lady with a great challenge in front of her. This is Flo.
Baby Flo. She wins the world championship. And the winner's circle for that cowgirl.
Fallon Taylor will win.
She's riding a new horse, Oliver Champion Flo.
It's one of the babies for baby Flo.
Low to the Flo.
Hush money.
What's up, Flomies? Welcome back to my channel. This one's gonna sting a little bit. I do want to preface this vlog, first of all, which you could tell by the title, is a full breakdown of what it costs to run a ranch. I do want to preface this by saying a whole lot of things. So we're gonna start with, I really, truly dislike when somebody discourages my dreams or tells me that it's way out of reach or projects something so crazy that it never seems attainable. So I want to let you know to start, if you want to have a horse in your backyard and you want to go to Tractor Supply and buy some of those little stakes and put an electric fence out and spend $100 on that, or spend $500 on some pre-fruit panels and throw a round bale out, it can be done, and absolutely can be done, and you can win that way, and there is nobody telling you that you can't. And you can practice in the middle of a field and plow up some dirt spots so that you can learn how to run barrels, because I've done it my whole career. In fact, when I give you all of these breakdowns, I'd also like to point out that my very favorite place to ride on this entire ranch is out in our pasture in a plowed up little spot in the middle of nowhere where I like to plop the barrels down with no fences. So if that tells you anything. However, I do want to show the behind the scenes of what a facility like this does cost to operate. So as you go, you can start to kind of think. Also, just to kind of give kudos to all the girls that you see on the road winning right now, and you see them win $1 million at the American, or you see them do a whole lot or win a whole lot, I want you to actually see their take home and why they're having to do so much work with sponsors and why they're out here hustling and grinding. Because I think a lot of people, and typically what I've found is that a lot of people see all the money coming in, but they don't see all the money going out, and it's all about perspective. So, not to scare the pants off you, because it can always be done with some hot wire and a round bale, but let's get into it. Okay, so to start, there are a lot of tax advantages with owning a ranch. Not enough to offset your expenses, but there's a lot of ways to get an ag exemption for a place that is even under 5 acres. Or if you're above 5 acres, you can do things like planting things or having your brood mares out there, which gives you a huge tax break. Or if you're on a very small piece of property, you can get bees. And you can look into all of those laws on Google, check out what works in your county, but the ag exemption can work for almost everybody. Ag exemption is fantastic because it just means that you're giving back to the land, you're taking advantage, and you're using your land to do something agriculturally that's going to benefit the planet in some way. So we obviously raise horses on our land and we file for our tax exemption, and we get a tax break on that, which is great because we're on a main highway in North Texas, and so that definitely helps. It's still expensive, but there are some advantages to that. Now, we have a different operation where there's a business here, but we're going to keep that completely separate. And maybe if you guys comment below and you want what it costs to run a business breakdown, we could possibly do that for you. But for now, we're just going to focus on the horse side of the operation. So I'm going to go through some things. Of course, there's going to be a lot of things that you already know, but let's get into it. So my electricity bill is not crazy high. However, when I bought this ranch, it was built a long time ago. Meaning that as we built on, I had to rewire a lot of the barns, and the lights in my arena were burning so much energy that it wasn't energy efficient. It made my electric bill skyrocket, and at one point I saw some of the little fixtures start to like smoke and break. So I had to hire somebody on a scissor lift to go in and rewire for all of these new LED lights. That was not cheap. It cost me about $5,000 to go in and rework all of these LED lights. But in the long term, for the long run, I think I've got a good 10 to 15 years of a decent setup that's going to be energy efficient, that's going to save money over time. When you have an operation that you ever want to go away from, so if you actually do have rodeo dreams to leave your facility, but you want to have more than one horse and something that you leave at home, you can do some things like have somebody come by part-time and have all of your water troughs on with the float system that's going to fill them back up. You still have to have somebody check them because God forbid those go out in the middle of the summer, and put a round bale out. You can do that. However, if you have a lot of performance horses sitting here like we do, you've got a baby flow that you leave at home while you take your hush money and your mojo on the road. You can't have your baby flow just out on a round bale in the middle of the pasture hoping that a float sticks with them. You've got 40 horses. You've got to make sure that you've got a hired hand on deck, at least one, to go through and make sure that they are caring for your animals at the same level that they would care for them while you are here. So I think that that's the biggest part. For a while, we did this without security cameras that we could access on our phones. That was a really bad idea. The cheapest $200 I've ever spent in my life was getting Nest cameras installed on Baby Flo's stall, on the driveways, on places where I could monitor various things. We've now stepped it up. I have Nest cameras everywhere in this office right now, like 10 of them waiting to be installed, because I bought the indoor-outdoor cams so we could actually step our game up a little bit and see down the driveways and see everywhere. I do have 2 people that live full-time on the ranch to be able to monitor things because now we're at the point where it's 40 horses, it's a whole lot, and now I've got to have somebody not only to feed them and care for them, but it's not a one-person job to be able to ride them. Now, back in the day before I broke my neck at my place there, I had 53 stalls and I was cleaning them by myself, and I was feeding, and I was doing all sorts of things. And then I would get to the horses that I could ride. And I very quickly learned, if you're trying to do it all, you'll be mediocre at all of it. So my very first piece of advice to you is, when you can afford to have someone come in and help you out with the day-to-day that anybody can do, so that you can do the job that only you can do, I highly advise it, because doing something that everybody else can do just means that you're kind of spinning your wheels and wasting your time. It's why I have people here doing things. Anybody can put out a round bale, anybody can fill a water bucket, anybody can clean a stall. There's various jobs that only I can do, and relinquishing that control is really hard. So you got to make sure that the vibe is right, because that's a really hard thing to do. Now, of course, there's feed and grain and hay here. The round bales out in the pasture make it so that it feels like you can kind of hoard up horses in the pasture. But when they start turning 2 and you start moving them indoors, the price of everything goes up, because those 2-year-olds, when they come in the barn, they are going to be pooping on shavings. So your shavings cost is involved. You're going to be putting a winter blanket on them, and winter blankets typically last 1 season, maybe 2 if you're lucky. The other thing is that now it's 1 more horse for that person that you're paying to have to take care of. So making sure that you're maintaining all of that. Are you going to put a security camera on that colt when it comes in? And then you're going to have to pay somebody to start it and ride it. So there's a lot of costs associated. Remember, don't get discouraged. Don't let me lose you here, but I do want to be really realistic and transparent about all of the different things that people sometimes forget about. Now, at your first opportunity, if you buy shavings, build a little shed or rent a train car that you can put shavings in so that you can buy them in bulk. Because even at $5 a bag, you're paying way too much, and your shavings cost is going to get away from you. We really like to use shavings here. We want our horses to have the very best. A lot of you guys ask why the horses look so good, what makes them so shiny. It's nothing you're going to buy on the shelf as far as like a supplement or a spray bottle. That is from the shavings being clean, the horses having really clean water, and having proper nutrition, having a clean place to lay down. So when we go get a horse out of a stall, we're not worried about this horse being covered in poop because the stalls are being cleaned twice a day, which costs money. Okay, another thing that I feel like people don't talk about is how big a flex it is to have farm equipment, trucks, trailers, tractors, drags, all of the things that you need to actually maintain a place. People don't realize that old beat up John Deere that I have out there is worth a lot of money. It's worth more than most people's cars, but they just see kind of a rusted out beat up tractor, where I see an investment that I made 15 years ago that I'm trying to maintain and keep top notch all the time. Now, the problem is that it's not us driving the equipment. It's typically your hired hands that drive it that don't think about the cost of that all the time. So, just like anything else, when it's not yours, you use it differently. And there's only a handful of people in the world that actually use things as if they were their own. The rest of people just get on and grind gears and run into stuff, and you're just like, ah. So I will tell you, one of my biggest lessons is that buying things that are as new as I can afford is definitely a better plan than buying things cheaply. I've learned that maintaining things is a lot more costly, especially if there's downtime, than if I spend a little bit more and it makes me a little nervous, but I can buy something a little bit newer. I've learned that that's the way to go. Even though you guys have seen me come from a car with no AC, to a $1,300 car with no power steering, all of the different levels of things, I've now learned that me being really frugal in some spots actually costs me a lot more money long term. So now I try to buy as new as possible because the maintenance is just so much lower, or there's warranties that I can apply. I still look for crazy good deals, but I try to buy as new as possible. As for the horses themselves, of course, we have vet bills. To maintain a place where we can travel with all these horses, they have to have a Coggins done, or whatever your vaccination schedule is for your farm. You've got to make sure that everything is up to date. Now, I think that back in the day, state law was that every horse on your entire place has to have a Coggins. Every horse here does, but that's only good for a year. However we take it. We do it the first week in January so that we remember every time. But I do have an alarm set on my phone for every 25 days to draw a new health certificate. I've got to have a health certificate to travel with horses if I'm going out of the state of Texas. So every 25 days, I've got to pay the 50 or 60 bucks to go get a health certificate on whatever horses that we haul. My tip to you is that when I get a health certificate, I put as many horses as will possibly fit on one page, because it doesn't cost more to put additional horses on a health certificate, but it does cost to get an additional health certificate. So if I can fit 10 horses on a health certificate, I do all 10 just to make sure I'm covered in case one comes up with an abscess or lameness or something that comes up, so that I can actually use that horse without having to pay another $60 to have my paperwork in my truck correct. Now, our paperwork is almost never checked, almost anywhere that we go. But bet your bottom dollar, if you don't have your paperwork correct, that'll be the day you get pulled over, or that'll be the day that an ag inspector wants to see your paperwork. So it's better to just have it tucked away. We keep a digital copy on our phones. That's something that's really, really major that we have. Now, within the stalls, depending on how your setup is, you're gonna have hay racks, plastic feeders, buckets, hoses, all sorts of different things that are going to pop up. So we try to reuse absolutely everything. When you walk into a ranch and you see everything is absolutely pristine, brand new, you better believe that that person really has spent a lot of money, because you try to use things as long as you possibly can. If you've owned horses for long, you know that a horse is pretty destructive. It's going to try to tear apart absolutely anything you put in the stall. So I'm still just on bare necessities. So now you can see how, if you're boarding your horses at a facility, a lot of people have a lot of complaints with boarding horses at a facility, but they've also never owned a boarding facility. So I empathize with both sides of this. I empathize with paying for a fee and wanting people to let you do your thing with your horse how you want to do it and having a really great vibe. Also empathize with the landowner who has seen the person drive through the grass or off the gravel and carelessly drive through the mud puddle, and not properly maintain certain things to keep the structural integrity of the stalls right, or stand on a gate, or all the different things that could drive a ranch owner really crazy. I empathize with both sides. I definitely never ever want to be in the boarding horses business, and I definitely have too many horses to board at my own place, but hopefully you can empathize with both sides a little bit more after this. That leads me to my next thing, which is insurance. You have to insure these places, especially if you're going to have heaters or you're going to have other people riding. It is a huge liability for you to allow somebody to take a lesson at your place. So you've got to make sure that you have an attorney which is an additional cost. Draw up some sort of an agreement when you allow people to ride to make sure that you are protected should they have an accident while at your place. So it's not when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen, it's when. So it's better to have a couple of $100s to protect you with a liability letter that's going to make sure that that person that's riding knows that that inherent risk is on them, because insurance is not cheap, especially for a horse facility. Horse facilities always need repair. Always. There's always going to be a pipe that busts or something that needs maintained or something that needs to be cleaned. For us, you're always running into a rodent problem because it's a ranch and there's warm places and there's cool places. So you have snakes and spiders and all sorts of things that are constantly trying to get inside of your warm spot where there's a lot of food. So making sure that you maintain not only a pest control service that can come over and help you to try to keep this down as low as you possibly can, but also going through and power washing your barns. We bought our power washer for I think $89 on Amazon, and it was one of the best things we ever bought. We have a gas powered one and an electric one. The electric one is by far our favorite, to go down through and schedule a really great time when it is warm enough to go through and power wash your barns as good as you possibly can. Now the dirt. There always needs to be dirt maintenance around your ranch, in your arena. I did not spend the money on dirt in my arena until 2 years ago. I regret not doing it sooner, but frankly, all of these costs add up a lot. And I learned quickly that the little cheap sprinklers that you get at Tractor Supply or wherever are a lot better than putting in a fancy system, because it's another construction cost. So buying dirt is really, really cheap. You just, again, have to find somebody that's willing to maintain it properly. Watering it, dragging it, ripping it when it needs, or making sure that it's not being, tilted or wasted or wind can't get through. There's so many things. So I think I've gone over, I'm looking at my list over here of all of the things, and that's before you've even bought a horse. So before you start to complain about how much a finished horse costs, remember that that finished horse has come out of a facility that all of these things have been maintained when they come out. I think that the Western industry is super behind on how we price things. I think that we have compromised trying to make sure that we have plenty of cash flow. So a lot of times what we do is just underprice things, and then somebody will come up and tell you that you overpriced it and shame you and make you feel really bad without even taking a look at all of the cost of the things that go into maintaining a facility. I could get into the total breakdown of breeding horses. If you guys want one of those to be a vlog, please make sure to comment below. I'll tell you what it costs to get a colt on the ground from scratch. Because that is another breakdown that I think would make colt pricing a lot more realistic. I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Again, please know you can do this. You can win a world title. You can be a world champion with a horse from a sale barn, a hot wire fence, some pre-fert panels, or a round bale. You can make it happen. These are just upgrades. And I didn't even go into the additional things like the body flow that we have in the barn for therapies, the game readies, the red lights, all of the different things, including the walker and the construction of the cover, because the walker was useless without a cover in the spring. So there's construction of those things. There's just as many layers as you want to go into this. Now, I do want to let you guys know that because this is something that I've loved and I've done for over 30 years, I'm in love with it. This is where I like to spend my money. This is what I like to do. I like to go out and watch the horses, and I'm grateful that my husband is on board and my friends love, love, love to enjoy this with us, because going out and seeing these horses do their thing and enjoy their life here is really what drives us. And that's where our fulfillment comes from. So we want to make sure that, we give you a realistic view, while at the same time, this is where I love to spend my money. So when you see me work hard, it's because I'm buying a driveway, or I'm repairing some buckets, or I need to buy new winter blankets, or install something else so that my horses have a better life. That's really what I'm striving for. I'm sure you can totally relate to that. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. Make sure to change the color of the like button. I'll bring you more of this content. I'm super excited to share this journey with you and all the different levels that there are to it. I left a lot out. I put a lot in, but I hope you enjoyed it. You guys, make sure to subscribe, ding the notification bell, and as always, don't forget to count your blessings, drink your protein, and say thank you to Jesus. See you next time.